I do believe there's a lot that's being withheld. I do not believe that they've given us everything at all. I believe Julie K. Brown, the reporter for the Miami Herald, who's been really owning this story, when she talks about the volumes and volumes of materials that are still with the FBI, that are still with the Southern District of New York, that are sitting there redacted, provided like, one big form that's been blacked out in every line, redacted. And I agree with Alan Dershowitz, who said he really thinks that these other men who may be in these files should have to defend themselves the same as Alan did. Only reason Alan got outed and all these other people didn't who may have been accused is because Virginia Giuffre was talked into mentioning Alan by others who thought it would really help Virginia sell her book. And Alan was, the most preeminent attorney in the country at the time, and he got put on the list. She later moved away. She dropped her lawsuit against him and said she may have been confused about who it was she actually was with. But that was after Alan produced all his proof. He'd never been with her. He's never been with, is it so hard to believe? It wasn't Alan. It wasn't Alan. Okay. Again, go back and look at our reporting on it. Poor Alan has been haunted by those allegations for a long, long time, but he still thinks we have a right to transparency. He still thinks that the other men who were accused should have to speak to it the same as he did. And Alan's been making the other point, which is valid too. There are probably a lot of accusers in there who are bullshit. Who, let's not forget, once Epstein was outed back in 2007 and 2008, there was a pile on. They created this fund, hundreds of millions of dollars. He became like the number one funder of the litigation bar in Florida. All these lawyers were like, holy crap, you can get money from Epstein's fund if you find some victim who says she was groomed by him or, forced into giving him a so-called happy ending at his mansion. Great, let's do that. Some are real and some are bullshit. It's kind of like what we saw in the Diddy case. There's no question that Cassie Ventura is telling the truth about what happened between her and Diddy. The jury may not have thought it was sex trafficking, but even the cross-examination didn't try to combat her allegations of abuse or getting her hooked on drugs or allegations about the freak-offs. Same for Jane. That doesn't make every accuser who came forth against Diddy real. And we exposed one of them on this show as we delved into the one woman who said his guard picked her up after a music awards show and brought her to Diddy for some night of debauchery. And it was all untrue. It was very clear that she wasn't in the right city. She was making all the wrong allegations. There was no house as she described and so on. So anyway, keep that in mind that there's another reason I think that favors disclosure, which is, why do these accusers have the right to stay anonymous forever? What is the rule that says you get to do that? I've talked about this before, but in the Ailes sexual harassment scandal at Fox News, we were told he gets to see your name. Like if you come forward against him, he's going to know you did. And then there was a time for choosing, right? Do we do that? Are we okay putting our names behind our allegations? I 100% was, because I was telling the truth and I knew he would know it. And frankly, in my case, I had contemporaneous journal entries. I had my office mate, Major Garrett, to whom I'd been regaling, stories the entire time. When the phone would ring and say, Roger Ailes, I was a first-year reporter. We were both like, holy shit. Anyway, my point is simply, when you're a truth teller, you're not afraid of disclosure like that. And I think except in a case where it's clearly a minor like that, minors deserve to be protected. But there's a lot of folks who were not minors, who were legal or like legal in the eyes of the law when it comes to a sexual interlude, and even older girls who their names should be exposed. They don't have a right to lifetime anonymity on all of this. Okay, so now we move on to, I actually have one soundbite I want to play for you before we move on to the question of whether he was an agent. And this is back to the question of how big is this story and who will cover it with integrity, given that the president clearly is asking people to move on, and yet it hasn't been resolved. So what should the press do? Joe Scarborough. This is the best Biden ever. Roll the tape. Roll the tape. I'm going to tell you the truth. The best Biden ever, Joe Scarborough, would like to weigh in on this scandal and Republicans who have accepted the president's request to move on. Listen here, SOT 5.
Sometimes you get it wrong. Mm-hmm. Hey, as I've said here on this show, I've Get it wrong every day. Most notably last year, after spending a lot of time with Joe Biden, I talked about Biden at his best. I got it wrong. Sometimes you change your mind and you see some facts, the facts change, you change your mind with those facts. That happens.
Oh my
but
God.
I must say, very rarely have I ever seen people going from a decade-long crusade against pedophilia, against sex abuse, against child exploitation, and making that almost a centerpiece of their existence, saying, when we get in power, we're going to release the Epstein files. Charlie Kirk said 7,500 people outraged by this. The truth must come out. And then the next day, magic pixie dust is sprinkled over all of the podcasters. And voila, this moral crisis of a decade long about little children getting raped by the richest and the most powerful men in the world goes away.
Unbelievable. Maybe sit this one out, Joe Scarborough. The nerve of this man to lecture anyone on not covering a story aggressively out of an interest in protecting their favorite president, the absolute unmitigated gall. My least favorite part of that clip, if you come back and watch it on our YouTube show, you'd have to go about 27 minutes into the show, is Mika Brzezinski sitting next to him with the face of, I'm making my sad, concerned face, a sad, concerned face. Oh, the poor children. Who does she think she's kidding? Not only did this pair run cover for Joe Biden for his entire presidency and was telling us he could and should do a second term, that he was totally fine and better than ever. Oh, but then the facts evolved that showed him he was wrong. Bullshit. There isn't a human on earth that believes that spin from him. He knew, he lied, he ran cover for political purposes. But that same man was one of the few reporters in America to get Doug Emhoff sitting across from him after the allegations broke that he was a woman abuser, that he had beat the shit out of his girlfriend he had just prior to dating Kamala. He didn't ask him at all about it. Since President Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, you've got your own personal savings to worry about. And one of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold, like from Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. OMG. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is high, and Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898 and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text MK to the number 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.